Hey everybody, it's Heather Campbell here for Ellen Hutson, and today I'm back with another quick 2-minute tip video. And today's video is all about how to get a good stamped impression. So here I'm going to be using a few pigment inks, and I'm going to start by just showing how you can actually ink up a stamp. So here you can see I'm bringing my stamp down into my ink pad. And what you're going to see when we look at this result is that the color isn't as consistent across that stamp. But if I flip it around and instead leave my stamp face up on my work surface and bring my ink down to it, what you're going to see is you have a much more consistent coloring across that stamped image. And I find this to be universally true, so here I'm going to show you one more time just the difference in that if I bring my stamp down into my ink, the color isn't the same between the two petals, the two sides of the petals, but when I flip it, I get a much more consistent image in the coloring across both sides of that stamp. Now, I did that with pigment inks, and now I'm going to show you that the same is true with a dye ink. Now, I find that to be extra critical for a pigment ink, but it does do the same thing for a dye ink. So here I'm using the Plant Lady Says, and I just love that stamp, and I think that's so great. So the next technique I want to show you is how sometimes when you go to stamp a stamp, there's just a spot on that stamp that will not accept the ink. And then when you get a stamp like that, what you want to do is you want to condition your stamp. So here I'm just taking an eraser and I'm rubbing it across the top of my stamping surface. Once I clean off the eraser residue, you can see that my stamped image is much more crisp and it definitely accepted the ink. Now, if you still have trouble, one other tip is to use Versamark, and you just use the clear Versamark pad and you stamp it in that first, and then you bring your color to it. So next, the technique I want to show is getting a little bit more of a spongy work surface. Now this will help with really detailed stamps or big stamps. What I'm using here is just some embossing rubber mats that I would run through my Big Shot. And here you can see that when I've added that cushion, this can really help depending upon the stamp. So the next tool that's really great and helpful in getting a good stamping impression is the Misti. Now that right there is the mini Misti, and then I also have the original size Misti. I use these both pretty interchangeably, and generally it has to do with whatever's just on my desktop and within arm's reach. I will tell you that the original size Misti is great for those stamps that can go across the card front, but here I'm just going to use the mini because it fits nicely in the video, and it does what I need to do here. So the beauty of the Misti is that it holds your paper and your stamp in place so that if you miss a spot, you can go back in and you can add more ink to your stamp and you don't have to do any serious alignment. So you can see there that I missed a spot. So here I'm just adding more ink to my stamp and I'm just going to line it back up, and you just press down pretty well if you've got a spot that's giving you some trouble. And there I was able to add more ink to that spot and line it back up. So here you have it. There are some techniques for getting a good stamped image. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it and have a wonderful day.